off. Okay, welcome to Flat Revival Radio. This is a special live stream. I just kind of want to start by saying, clearly we're moving toward a time when, and it's already been happening, but we can see that they're up in the game here. But corporations like YouTube and Facebook are deciding what we can and cannot talk about online, and it's clear that they're really pushing hard right now, and they're finding ways to take out the big players. And this event that we cannot speak of, I'm sure you all know what I'm referring to. The recent event. We're not going to call it by name in this stream, but this is going to be used as a backdoor to get to people that maybe they couldn't find a way to label what they're doing as hate speech or bullying. I think this is going to be leveraged to take down some of the bigger players and cause them, maybe not shut them down completely, but it's going to cause them to change the way they're talking about material. So with me is Louis Lewis, the editor of Flat Revival magazine. How you doing, man?
Doing all right.
Good. And of course we have special guest Crow with us today. Really happy to have you on, man, and happy to support you in any way that we can.
Thank you, man. I truly appreciate it, Ty. And I'm going to be making the rounds. I'm pretty much going to carte blanche anyone who wants to have me on to speak with it, because as we came into the event that we cannot mention because Google and YouTube have rewritten their algorithms, and I don't want you guys to suffer by association what has just happened to my channel, which I'm locked out of now and will probably go away in the next day or two, taking with it 4 years of unique telescopic history of our world. Well, maybe I should shut up and introduce the meme that I'm trying to get started here. A person came to send condolences when they found out that it looked like my channel was going to get taken down, and made an offhand comment. I've already credited this person in many other places, so you can find who should be credited. And they said it's a modern day book burning. As I got off that conversation, more I thought about that in many of these events, which we cannot name by name, there's often a branding, like the word active shooter is put on it. This is branding. This is a branding mechanism. And I thought, well, turnabout's fair play. So what I am doing now is starting a campaign to begin an internet-wide meme called modern day book burning, because that's absolutely what's going on, and my channel is proof of that, because they wanted to censor some of the content I put out, and some of it is innocuous. And the first thing they hit was an interview with Randy from Houston. Anyone who's heard him, I mean, he's as likable as you want, but I put false shooting in the title, which is why I assume it got pegged. My point here is this: they wanted to censor my content, and if they take down that channel, with it goes all the original lunar wave footage and 4 years of basically telescopic work. Well, I do have much of this backed up. In my view, that is in fact a modern day digital book burning. So I'm hoping people will join in and begin to spread the meme to push back against this unacceptable censorship.
Yeah, I mean, I think this, like you had mentioned on the little impromptu thing you did on your radio show site. It's everybody understands what that is, book burning, and everybody, even people who aren't necessarily awake to what's going on in the media and all the shenanigans they're pulling. Everybody understands that that's not a good thing, and so I think
Right.
using that as a hashtag and inviting, this is something. It doesn't matter what little group you're part of, or where you stand with a lot of things. I think we can all get behind this hashtag modern day book burning, and we can throw in and get this out there.
And to put that in a little context, you got to understand that almost any channel that gets taken out that's been around for a while, when that content gets removed, they're removing snapshots of history. There may be just footage of this, that, or the other thing on any given channel. Who knows what a person may have covered? But what they're basically doing in order to censor the things that cannot be named by name, the media that cannot be challenged because of the iron fist at this point, they are erasing history. And when you erase history so freely, so kind of nonchalantly, we've come through the threshold here. Either the people that are listening to this now are going to make a decision that this isn't correct. I'm not down with this. I won't accept it. If enough people make that decision, we can in fact have a bearing on what happens next. Conversely, if everyone just sits by and watch what happens, I'll make you this promise. If this kind of censorship is left unchecked, I guarantee you we're not too many years away from you going to your ATM machine and that ATM not doing what you want it to do, because that's where this heads. And that may seem a bold statement, but first of all, you're talking to a guy with a degree in internet technology. Secondarily, I predicted almost to the day with Jason, my co-host on Crrow777 Radio, what was going to happen on the tail of the event we cannot name. I even said to him, I don't know if my YouTube channel will last another month. Within a day, I had 1 strike. Within a couple days, I had 2. I'm now locked out. So there it is. This stuff is not hard to see if you focus on what's going on.
Hey, Crow, what do you think? I mean, why this specific event? What's the why now, do you think?
Well, the timing of the year. I'm going to talk in a little bit of double speak and maybe a little bit of coded words so people with a brain will understand what I'm saying. But again, I don't want this channel to suffer by association. And we've gotten to the point where if you say certain words, their algorithms are going to pick it up. And now they're just handing out flags like they're breath mints, pretty much. So the point here is part of it is time of year. Anyone who wants to think of that for a second will understand. As this happened, I said to Jason, we have passed a milestone again. As I broke down the numbers that were in the dates and everywhere else and the words and the etymology of words, hadn't even looked at a single thing. Not the television, not a newspaper. I already knew. It was clear as a bell what had just happened. And so while I would like to answer you more directly, I can tell you that this is partially calendrical to the calendar, to the clock, to the numbers game that we always see. And then, of course, it's something else altogether where it's like the next rung of the ladder. This was a milestone, make no mistake. And the fact that we have major corporations rewriting algorithms to catch a single word, which we cannot speak here, hint, 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 tells you what's going on. This is a big deal. We came through a major milestone. Don't be fooled. Don't be lulled into a sleepy state where you do not understand that the event that we cannot name by name was a big damn deal. It was a milestone, much like that one near the turn of the century, if you follow me.
Well, and what people need to understand is this doesn't have anything to do with flat Earth, anything you believe. This has to do with your own personal life, identity, what you're allowed to do. I mean, this is an all-encompassing net here. This has nothing to do
I
with
think this does. It transcends, we see this so often, there seems to be this great momentum behind something, and then all of a sudden it starts to splinter and fraction into groups, and there doesn't seem to be any way to get people together for a focused goal. But this is something, I think this transcends all of that. And if we pull together and push on this modern day book burning concept as a whole, and put all of these little differences aside about whatever we're focused on, I think we can make a push that can make a difference.
If you can create a meme, it's just like the whole active shooter thing that I just said. These are branding mechanisms. Branding mechanisms work. It's not just that they're doing it. They're proven. They're scientifically, by the numbers, provable it works. The idea of a modern day book burning is just doing what they're doing to point out specifically the just absurdity of what people are watching go down. When I was young, what is going on now would have been unacceptable on so many levels that you would have been considered a bad American if you did not stand against what we were talking about here. This is censorship of the highest order. What this is convincing people that a private corporation has the right to do what a private corporation has to do. This has crept into our lives. In the same way, when you go to work for a private corporation, they can
Right.
in fact, legally abridge your free speech. This is what's being leveraged off. On the one hand, they are saying, come one, come all, who walk or crawl, tickets, just 2 lids ahead. On the other hand, they are holding the shield of corporation in your face. These two things are oil and water. A public forum and a corporation do not go hand in hand. So for my part, if you want to try to convince me that a private corporation has the right to abridge my free speech in a public forum, to hell with that. I'll never accept it. Never a day in my life. As we started the podcast website, Crrow777radio.com, we did it because we could see what's happened now. We knew there was a day coming when Facebook and YouTube would be kicking everyone out, stealing years, thousands of hours of content creation, and that's why we did it. But you see, as we were doing this, we were thinking to ourselves, are we going to be able to run an independent website and have the free speech? Well, right now I can. I can do that. I can go over to Crrow777radio.com and say anything I like. But you want to know something? That website is sitting on an ISP. An ISP is a corporation. If you don't draw a line in the sand, when people like Google try to abridge our free speech and say, hey, that's not okay, this will creep out into everything. And in the same way I was able to predict we had just passed a milestone that my website or my YouTube channel likely wouldn't make it, I'm predicting now that if we do not stand up against these things, there will be no private website in this world where free speech is exercisable anymore, because it will all be under the aegises of corporation, and their little slimy creep that has been going on will be brought to bear. I'm sorry for the wordy response.
No problem, man. And I agree completely, and I think we've even talked about this before on this channel, but no matter if you're using the internet, whatever platform you're using, even if it's not one of these major players, like you've been able to break away and create something off the beaten path a bit, and this gives you a great deal of freedom for the time being. But everything online is using, the cables that transfer all of this data.
That's
all
right.
the tools that we're using, they're all owned by the corporations. We can't do any of this without being at their mercy. So, yeah, you can see the writing on the wall here.
What's a bit ironic is Jason and I did a show not too long ago that covered some free speech, because I suspected most people knew little or anything about it. And I wanted to point out one thing is most of the language you read has to do with the government infringing your free expression or free speech. But as we got into it, there were so many court cases where it was outright stated that any amount of offense can be brought while exercising free speech as long as you don't injure anybody. And that was reiterated over and over and over. So what we see here from YouTube, from Facebook, is the exact opposite of this idea. What they're saying is you put the word that cannot be mentioned, the event that cannot be named in this video, and we're going to call that offensive. So we're going to abridge your free speech, and we're going to do it because we hide behind the shield of corporation. And that's what's going on here. And I invite anyone to go look up the idea of free speech. And even though I don't agree with a lot of the legalities that we've been kind of trained to accept, the point here is that there are endless court cases that flat out state you can insult any number of things to supposedly hurt someone's feelings or offend them, and you have not violated free speech. When I was young, it was summed up in one simple sentence: don't scream fire in a crowded theater. The idea being, if you did that, someone might get hurt. So there it is, man.
Yeah, and I mean, anyone with common sense can easily understand the difference between, the free speech that we're talking about and trying to mobilize to protect, and the kind of free speech that causes harm, like you just said, shouting fire in a crowded building. That this doesn't take it. It doesn't take a brain surgeon to understand the difference between these two things, and they're very clever. I think creating this back door with this event, we can see the damage that it could do. And they can basically just pick and choose who they're going to go after over this thing.
Yeah, people came and pointed out that clips covering the event that we cannot name here due to censorship, people like Alec Jones, they're running them with impunity, and it tells you something. It tells you something big. But I would point out to people, media does what media does, and I'll pull all your minds back for some nostalgia programming, which I just covered in a recent episode, to Indiana Jones. There's a scene there where they've got the Nazis burning books to instill that kind of horror in your nostalgic memory of what supposed history is. That's actually what's going on right now. That in the digital world, the equivalent of that supposed made-up Hollywood scene of a pile of books being burned up, that is what's going on. A record of our age, a record of individuals who have filmed and spoken and covered whatever it was in a day of their life is being destroyed. Basically, digital books being burned. A modern day book burning is going on now. And the people behind it are Google, YouTube, Facebook, and any number of social media sites who have decided to defend the false narratives that people like me challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Louis found this, what I think is obviously a very relevant quote. And I think it was in Time magazine quite some time ago, and it says without censorship, things can get terribly confused in the public mind. And this was William Westmoreland, who's quoted as saying that. And so you can see this is the viewpoint that those who are controlling this mechanism, this construct we live in, this is how little they think of humanity and the individual. That literally, without censorship, things are, people are just going to be terribly confused because they have no discernment on their own, right?
It's for our own good.
So let's put it in context for people out there. For those who are not old enough to remember Westmoreland, he was one of the big generals in the Vietnam not war. And the reason I call it not war is because war was never declared. What most people are unaware of about Vietnam, where this man is making this quote from on the authority of his involvement as a general there, is that Jim Morrison of the Doors' father was an admiral in the Navy who lied and started that conflict, which was never declared war. This is what we're talking about, folks. It's a shell game. It's a complete pulling of the wool over not just our eyes, over the eyes of a world. And what happens is these things tend to become known 20, 30 years later. But by then, the deal is done. And so right now, the iron is hot, man. There are digital books burning everywhere that social media is. There are clamps being put down on what a person is allowed to think or say, as is demonstrated by this very thing we're doing here. We won't even say the name of the event that is causing so much trouble. But anyhow, over to you, Ty or Louis.
Yeah, did you have anything to add on this quote, Louis, that you found? I mean, I guess it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I mean, I have a hard time believing that anybody pulls around the corner in their neighborhood and there's a neighborhood book burning, an actual book burning. You wouldn't stand for that. At least I wouldn't. And I don't even want to deal with people, but that would throw me into a rage. And I don't see how anybody cannot see that this is the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, we live in a time where digital content is dominating. The amount of digital content being produced, not just on a daily, even on an hourly basis, it's absolutely incredible. And when you can take a channel like Crrow's channel and take 4 years of incredible work and history there, and just with the push of a button, destroy that. And almost none of the content on that channel has anything to do with the so-called reason.
Right.
And this is, I mean, the power of that, the capacity for a corporation to be able to do that. We just can't. If we can't sit by, this is what Crrow is saying, is that this is the moment where you decide to, as Louis likes to say, you're either going to be an armchair warrior, and you're going to stay in your comfort zone and just talk about this in ways that don't really matter, or we're going to actually do something about it. And I think pushing this meme out there is a good start. Everybody should be throwing in the towel, throwing in with this creative process. It doesn't matter what your skill level is at creating memes. You have a mind and you have a way of expressing it, and let's do this modern day book burning meme and get it out there in a huge way.
Let's put a little context for people. What Louis just said was so evocative. To come home, turn the corner and see a book burning going on, which is exactly what is going on. You just can't see it because it's digital. But think of this. Back in 2012, on Yom Kippur, near the equinox, actually it may have been the equinox. I've been meaning to go back to see if it truly was, because they always report the date wrong. I filmed what was called the first lunar wave. It was the best example we have. To this day, when people ask me, what is the lunar wave? I can't answer for sure. But what I can say for sure is it's probably very important. Over the life of my website, YouTube admits to roughly 700,000 people seeing the lunar wave. But the truth is I have never spoken to a person in something like 216 countries that have internet, that come to Crrow777 Radio, that was not aware of that footage. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever spoken to anyone in the capacity of working online that was not aware of the lunar wave. We've even had rappers like B.O.B. included in songs. We've even had places like Nike name a shoe after it to try to confuse the search returns. That's going away. When my website goes away, the ability of people all over this world to go see the original footage of the 2012 lunar wave is going away. And I just want to put some context around this. So because I put false shooting in the title of a video, or I challenged the media in a later podcast, all that history, all that work, all that book is going through the modern day book burning. And think of what it means. If the lunar wave truly is important, think of what it means.
Right. I mean, like I said, I mean, I don't even understand how it can be this universal thing. I mean, if they're going to attack something that was presented in a video, how does that translate into a justification for a wipe of the entire channel's history? That's mind-blowing.
Good point.
It's not just a book burning at that point, is it? It's a library burning.
There you go. It's telling, and you make such a valid point. It's very telling. Look, man, if I make a video they got a problem with, they can take it down. They've already proved it, because they took 2 down to give me the 2 strikes that are currently on my channel that have me locked out while I await the 3rd. It goes to show that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in silencing someone who has something to say that they don't agree with. It's clear as a bell.
Yes, I would agree with that completely. And this meme here, I worked up just shortly after, that I got an email saying you're doing a special thing on your Crrow777 radio site. Went over, listened to it. I'm going to be producing several memes, but I thought what we could do is I'm going to go to my Twitter account right now, and it's up on the screen, and I'm going to get this thing posted with the hashtag.
Okay, cool.
With the hashtag modern day book burning. Don't let corporations dictate what we can and cannot talk about. Grab the image. And there we go. Hopefully. So I just posted to hashtag modern day book burning on my Twitter account. We invite everyone, produce your own meme. Let's throw thousands of memes at the wall, and some of them are going to stick. Some of them are going to go viral. Some of them are going to catch on. And that's the you don't know if you're going to be the person who hits it just right, who creates something powerful enough that gets under people's skin, and that could be the one that goes. So get in this mix and let's make this happen.
So Ty, while we're here, send me the image one way or another, and while we're here live, I will go on my Twitter account and I will do my part to begin the life of this meme that I truly hope 1 million people interact with and pass on, truly concerned for the world that their children are going to grow up in. Because, man, the way this is going, I kid you not, this kind of censorship and this all overarching control from behind a computer screen, this is going to creep out into the world. And people may hear me talk about ATMs and roll their eyes, but that is exactly where this heads someday. We've got to stand up. We've got to exert our rights as people. You're not going to be offered rights probably in this digital age anymore. It's probably going to come down to the rights you demand. And right now, this modern day book burning, and I will say that over and over and over, wouldn't have stood for 5 seconds in the 70s when I was young. As a matter of fact, if anyone even tried to understand what you were checking out on your library card, there was hell to pay back then. So we need to kind of regain back some of our perspective. And Ty, if you send that, I'll post it right now.
Yeah, I just dropped it to you via email, so it should be on its way or there.
Okay.
Yeah, let's make this thing happen. You know, it's sure this is a first step, and this is, again, we can do this from the comfort of our home. It's something quite simple. Anyone can create a meme. That's the beauty of memes, is that you can even go online. I think there's programs that make it especially easy to do so. You don't even need a program like Photoshop or imaging software. Just get a meme out there. I know you all have great creativity and insight. So
I think it needs to be mentioned too that it's not often that people have the chance to be part of something, like be part of the beginning of a needed paradigm shift.
Yeah, I think we've spoken to this before on our show, but I never would have thought that I would get to be a part of something like Flat Earth, or
right.
be a part of something that could potentially change the way people see the world. And if I can be some small part of any of that, and something like this where we're going to protect something for future generations, that's more than I ever thought I'd get to participate in as an individual, as a human being. And
right.
It is an opportunity to step up to the plate and be something more than maybe you thought you could be.
Yeah, Ty, I would mention, and it has directly to do with what you've been trying to create. When you sent me the magazine that I contributed in an article for Flat Earth Revival magazine, I'm always wondering, I say yes to so many things, and then I look at it and I say, I hope I'm proud that I said yes to this. When I read what you contributed to that magazine, I was more than proud. Your article on Scientism is the best piece in there. It blows what I wrote out of the water by miles and miles. My point is this: I have said for a long time that our world and space and most of what we know is misdescribed. If this is true, if the ideas that you are pursuing and challenging these ideas are true, the very free speech we are urging people to step up to protect right now are going to come to bear on these ideas. And if in fact our world is misdescribed, there's not a person out there listening that could ever listen that will ever know the truth if this kind of censorship of information is not curbed and quickly. There will never be a time when we understand any more about this world, because we will be under the aegises of information systems that don't have any concern for truth or any concern for this free speech and free thought of the human mind.
Correct. And again, this goes back to, this is something that transcends all of it. Any group you're part of, no matter what specifically you're choosing to focus on, if we don't pull together and move on this thing, this modern day book burning, and protect the freedoms we have to speak about any topic any way we choose, everything is going to be affected, including flat earth. That is of course a focus of flat revival, but it is not by any means the only thing that we will be focused on.
I mean, this affects you even if what you think Crow does is absolutely ridiculous and you don't believe it, and you believe in everything all of us have been taught. It transcends even that. Like, this literally affects every single human being on the face of the planet.
Oh, that's a really valid point. You're right. Even the people that completely 100% disagree with anything Flat Revival might be doing or anything Crow might be doing, they should still understand that book burning, if we're doing that, if that's where we're at, then everyone needs to step up to the plate on this one.
Exactly.
And I'll actually add something to that, guys. Back in the day when I was doing Tavistock research, it became crystal clear to me what variety means to people who want to control things. Variety is the enemy of control systems. The more variety that exists in the world, the more difficult it is to control. So if personally, Crow, I say something that you don't agree with, or the idea of flat earth or any of these things, it doesn't matter. You should be challenging everything you hear anyhow. Anything that I say, you should challenge it. If someone's talking flat earth, you should challenge it. But the fact remains that variety is what allows us to be free. When variety is removed from a group of people, they become very easy to control, which means every person of a different religion, a different heritage, a different culture, a different set of ideas brings variety to a system. And I can point you directly to the Tavistock and Frankfurt School research that demonstrated one of the things they wanted to remove from society was variety. And if you don't believe me and you live in the United States, compare all the colors of the cars you see today. Go look at like the SUVs, like maybe what a Hyundai Santa Fe, and look at it and then recognize that every other car maker in that class, they look almost identical. Then compare the colors of all the cars you see in a day that are modern, and then go look back to the 70s and the 60s. What you're seeing is the removal of variety from our society. What is going on with the modern day book burning is the removing of challenging, the removing of variety of people who think in different ways. And that's the truth of it. So what Ty said, man, it is so spot on. And anyone who wants to contact me, I'll point them right to the Tavistock research that demonstrated they wanted to remove variety from our society, which is much of what this is about.
Yeah. I hadn't really thought about that aspect, that there's been this slow kind of draining out of variety in something like the type and style and color of vehicles being offered. It's not something
right.
I considered, but that's it's subtle, and it's not, it's almost like the frog in boiling water, the slow rise of temperature that you don't notice until it's too late.
It's a provable thing. I invite anyone to go out and look at, say, the small four-door SUV class of cars and try to distinguish between a Hyundai or any model. Next next to each other. And while you can do it, the point is they look very, very similar. Back in the day, if you go back and look at classes of cars, the whole thing was which car company could make the one that sold the best. What was unique about it that people might like? We're a million miles from that now. And you can also confirm it by looking at the variety of color out there in vehicles. And that's just one example I can point people to in the real world to try to catch on to the importance of what we're pointing out here.
Well, go to any, with the car thing, just walk around any relatively new neighborhood and look at the houses. I mean, you can't tell any difference. They're all the same.
That's a great point too, man. And that also plays into the whole idea. Has anyone ever considered, like if you go look at the European Gothic cathedrals and you look at how those were built and you compare it to how we live today, when was the last time a building of that beauty, of that ingenuity, of that deep meaning, higher mindedness, that meaning that was put into those structures, whatever they were built for? Some people claim it was some natural science that ended up being incorporated into religion. Some people claim it was religion from the beginning. Doesn't matter. The higher mindedness that was required to put together those edifices that are so remarkable. Now look where we are now. We live in cubes and rectangles under fluorescent lighting. There is a push in this world to put a lasso around the masses. The modern day book burning is one of many symptoms, but it's one that we can address, all of us. And again, man, I would urge people to think what Louis said, coming home, turning the corner and seeing a book burning going on, because that's basically what we're talking about here, man.
And this brings up something else that I get real passionate about is, with the being an armchair philosopher, or, what kind of, you need to, just like, the construction of these cathedrals Crow is just talking about, you need to attach meaning to every single one of your actions. And you need to really look at that and try to understand what is the meaning behind me doing this. And, once you attach meaning to your words, to actions, that's when you're going to discover your passion. And passion, regardless of what people say, passion will move the earth.
Right. Yeah.
There's no
true.
doubt.
Hey, Crow, there's some stuff going on in the chat, and I was curious, as of right now, can any of us still go to your YouTube channel and watch the full history of your videos?
Except for what's been removed, I assume the answer to that is yes. I cannot log into YouTube, and here's why. When you get one strike, you get this pink sheet window, and it tells you the video that got struck, and it tells you violated guidelines, which doesn't mean dick, because no one can understand exactly what that means on purpose. And at the bottom, they want you to acknowledge. On your first strike, you can click on the video that they've taken down to get to it and see it, and that gets you in. On the second strike, if you try to hack your way around the I acknowledge button, you can't do it. I don't acknowledge anything. I don't accept, acknowledge, recognize the authority of any of it, so I will not click the acknowledge button, which means basically I'm locked out of, YouTube services. As a matter of fact, I can't even interact with the people right now who I assume are in the chat room or see how many are there. Yes. So that's what it is. But anyone who goes to Crrow777 on YouTube should be able to see videos unless the third strike has come. Then I assume the whole channel will be gone, and every book, every volume, every encyclopedia of the nighttime sky will have been burned to ash.
Wow. Thank you to Elevate Your Mind for subscribing. Anyone who hasn't shared this vid, please do, and encourage others to get involved with the hashtag modern day book burning. The reason people are asking, Crow, if the vids are still available is that it is very possible that there's so much content there, of course, but if enough people get involved and we organize it and break it up, it is very possible that as a collective we could save your videos
Okay,
I
so
have the ability to play your video through OBS broadcasting software and create it as a mirror on
right.
Flat Revival's channel. It would be a way for backing up your content.
Okay, so here's the deal. I invite everybody to go take anything they want off my channel so that it survives in this world. There was a time when I tried to protect the original lunar wave footage because so many people said crazy dang things that I knew were not correct about it. And it used to irk me because it took a lot of my life to capture that footage. At this point, it is way more important for this not to be lost to the world. I have people now who are followers at Crrow777 Radio downloading and backing up the telescopic and sky work. I have every single podcast, and so does Jason, so that's not a concern. What we're talking about here is the telescopic work, everything that precedes the podcast. So you can see the timeline when you go to my channel, and I invite you all to pull it down. It is far more critical that these records of our immediate history are preserved, and that those 4 years of nonstop filming the night and daytime sky are preserved. And again, even it's sad, man, because even if 15 people or 20 people listening right now went out and downloaded these things to preserve them, the truth is if the channel gets removed, there's not a guy in Budapest tomorrow who can log on to YouTube and see the 2012 lunar wave. There's not a guy in London tomorrow who can log on and see the shooting orb. There's not a guy in Australia the day after that who can log on and see the endless line of bizarre things I filmed transiting the moon. That's the truth of it. So anyone, I'm giving you an open invitation. If you want to go on Crrow777 YouTube channel and download the telescopic or sky work, day or night, moon, planets, whatever, pull it down, preserve it for future generations. I'm over 50 now. There's only so many more years I'll be here. So hopefully some of the work I've done will outlive me and maybe be of value somewhere.
I think there's no question about that, and I know that a lot of people here are going to they're going to do their part and get as many of your videos backed up and as we can. So this, I think, as we push forward on this with modern day book burning and saving all of the hard work that you've done with what you're already doing with some other people, I don't think your work is going anywhere, man. It's going to be around for a long time.
It would be sad in a way I can't even imagine if the telescopic and daytime telephoto work I did went away. Things like the shooting orb, things like some of those lunar waves, particularly the 2012 lunar wave, in my higher mind, they feel very important to me. And while I can't tell you for certain what they are, what I can tell you is years have gone by now and I've seen what's happened around this footage. There's something there. There's something more to know. If as an example, for the 2012 lunar wave footage, the first one ever captured, which I captured by accident, if I could go back and demonstrate that on Yom Kippur, the night that I accidentally filmed that, if that was truly the equinox for San Diego, the equinox being when it's equal day and night, they always give you a fake date, but it doesn't represent the true equinox. That is critically important because in endless Masonic etchings and other occult etchings, those pillars on either side, you see they're often encoding equinoxes. And from the outset of filming of that first lunar wave, I intuitively knew it was related to equinoxes, which later turned out to be true. What I'm telling you here is if this book gets burned in the modern day book burning, everybody's losing something because there's something critically important, and that is evidence of that important thing, whatever it might be. And if it goes away from the world, man, that just sucks. I don't know how else to put it. And that sets aside the endless hours that myself and my wife spent basically staring through a telescope hour after hour, catching nothing, so we could get 15, 2 seconds of footage that mattered. We did that for 4 years. So
It was
it is, man.
Yeah, I remember first hitting on your channel. I may have been shortly before I really embraced the flat Earth possibility, and it was mind-blowing. Clearly the amount of hours spent and the quality. What also blew me away was that you were presenting people with footage of the moon that far exceeded anything NASA or any official agency was going to show us in terms of quality. And
You know,
that's an amateur, an individual without a $50 million a day budget, mind you, who is delivering some of the highest quality footage of the moon we've ever seen.
that's what started this. Is people all of a sudden realized is how is this frickin' crazy dude sitting in his backyard in San Diego producing footage of this quality when we haven't seen it from space agencies. And to be fair, had I not caught the lunar wave, who knows where this would have went. But by the time that, here's the funny thing. I filmed that near the fall equinox on Yom Kippur of 2012. So in September, I looked at that footage for I think over a year. I think it was 2013 when I finally posted it. But when I finally posted that footage, I have never seen a fire start like that in my life. All of a sudden, I was getting nervous, but I was telling my wife I don't want to be famous, and people are like trying to find me with Google Maps and, doing all this crazy stuff, which is, then I just reverted back to early on in the world when I started to recognize that my corporate birth name was a straw man identity. I started using Crow because it's what people wrote. It's how they got an email to me. They wrote the word Crow and it came to me. That's how that stuck originally.
Yeah.
And so I put up the bird, and at first I had put up some images myself, but then people were literally saying, we're going to come find you in San Diego. And I was getting like hundreds of emails a day. You can't imagine a shift in someone's life having posted the lunar wave footage. And, I knew there was something important there. And as time went on, of course, it's funny. I thought I'll never shoot anything this important again, but look at the litany of footage that came after. All of it on the chopping block now, all of it being held over the modern day book burning fire right now as we speak, all of it.
Unbelievable. Shout out to, there's several people in the chat. Go find the others. He says he has a big external hard drive and he's ripping the moon vids right now. Here's your flatty just grabbed see through Hollywood style illusions. Words have meaning. People are already on this, man.
Okay, so let me just shout out for everybody. Early on, I was running ads on the YouTube channel to try to offset the endless hours I spent filming. I went with a place called Scale Lab for the reason that at the time the person who ran it, I said, "Can you help protect me from YouTube?" This is all the way back in 2013. I do have a degree in internet technology. I knew where we were going. I didn't know exactly what this day that I'm sitting in now would be, but I knew something like it would come at some point. So everyone out there ripping video, if you want to run that footage on YouTube, there's a good chance that Scale Lab will put a strike on you, but I can have that strike removed. And the reason for that is because I hired Scale Lab to help protect me from YouTube, which hopefully they're trying to do now. I know they are. I know for a fact they are. I don't know if they'll succeed. They may not. It's hard to know what's going to happen here. My point is this, is they take a percentage of the 50 cents I make on any given video. So they policed the lunar wave and stuff like that. And just so people are completely clear, I have never put a strike on anyone since back in the days of Dazza the cameraman putting a 25 video run against me, being just an annoying person. That was the last person I ever put a strike against. And he was so bad-hearted about it. But even after that, I amended my ways and I said, I don't care how bad-hearted the person is. I will never do that to anyone ever again. And that was years ago. So I just want to put it out there. If you end up posting any of that on YouTube, there is a chance that Scale Lab will find it with their bots. But the point here is if you contact me, I can have anything lifted. And probably if you communicate with me up front, I can contact them and say, please don't do anything to this person. They don't catch them all. Believe me, they don't catch them all. But they do catch some. And, I've instructed them to never put a strike on anyone. And like I said, the last time it happened was years ago. The guy did deserve it, but nonetheless, I would never do it again. I know much more. What are we talking about here now? I would never participate in that kind of thing anymore now that I understand wholly what is involved.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I'm glad you brought that up and let people know so they're aware of that possibility. And obviously, it can all be solved. So I'm just impressed with the immediacy and the response of people, it's already happening, and I'm sure there are people in this who have participated in this stream that are already creating their modern day book burning memes.
There it is.
It's happening.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I want to thank everybody who actually gave a damn about the history that I gave up 4 years of my life for. And just to be clear, I see other people out filming now. I've spoken with them. There's Richard 205 Maria. CD was the first person I ever had on my channel. It is backbreaking. People have no idea what it's like to drag out all that equipment, set it up, and then sit there staring at paint dry most nights for hour after hour. And then suddenly 5 seconds, something happens, and that's your night. Occasionally you get lucky and maybe you get 10 seconds in a night. So I thank you all for having, the fortitude to recognize the value in preserving this thing. But more than anything, this modern day book burning meme, please spread it. Please push it out there. If we can make this a thing, maybe it's possible we can stem the tide to some degree, or maybe at least be the first ripple, the first wave of people who push back against this unacceptable treatment of the human mind.
Absolutely. I do have someone who is asking how they can get a hold of Flat Revival Magazine, Heather Raven. I did want to engage that real quickly. Right now we're experiencing a problem with our internal print file for CreateSpace. They, for some reason, even though they've already printed well over 100 of these things, they're now rejecting that print file. And I'm trying to get it resolved as quickly as possible, but as of right now, you cannot order a copy of the magazine.
Holy smokes.
I apologize for the inconvenience on that. But it will get resolved. It's a small bump in the road. So yeah, anyone who is looking to order that, it's not currently available, but we will let you know just as soon as that problem is resolved. So I didn't want to throw this off topic, but I had to get that in.
Well, there. No, that is topic. I mean, what the hell? They printed 100 of them and now they can't? That smells like rotten fish to me all day long. But setting that aside, which I will, maybe, just contact Ty. You have his YouTube channel. You're here now, so you can keep tabs. And I want to say thank you to Miss Raven because I saw her over at Crrow777 Radio. So I know she's truly making the rounds and supporting the effort here. And that means a hell of a lot, man. What we're talking about here matters. So thank you for being one of the lights in this darkness that is pushing its way over our heads.
Absolutely. Well, I think we hit all the bases here. I think we hopefully have got the ball rolling on hashtag modern day book burning. Get in on this, folks. Get your memes out there. As far and as wide as you can. I know, Crow, that you want to make the rounds. You've got a lot to do. You're mobilizing, and sorry you have to deal with this. I'm sorry you have to put energy into all of this instead of doing what you always do, which is inform all of us.
Well, this is, thank you so much, Ty, but this is no surprise to me. I swear to you, back in 2013, I already knew where the internet was heading. As a matter of fact, when I graduated with my degree in internet technology and got out into my first corporate job, I understood full well the potential of where this is heading. Anyone who doesn't get it, go watch the movie Tron. There is an underlying subtext to the movie Tron that is reflecting probably the current day we sit in. But I will say this. Usually when I get all kinds of contacts to go out and speak or be on shows, in the past I've been kind of picky because the problem becomes that if you go on someone's show, then everyone thinks you're automatically approving whatever it is they do. And it just becomes a drag to deal with the endless line. I get some days 200 emails or more, and that doesn't even count all the contacts that were coming through YouTube or my website or other places. So it got to be too much. Right now, I don't care. If you know someone who wants to talk to me or have me on their show, maybe Jason and I both together, here I am, man. I'm going to be the equivalent of a media whore. The main difference being I'm not being paid and I'm doing it for what I can consider to be the correct reasons. But I'm looking to make this meme modern day book burning stick. And I'm looking to be an example. I may lose 4 years of my life of telescopic work and then everything on the tail of that was podcast work. But that pales in comparison to what's at stake here. So I'm just putting it out there. If you know people who want to have me on their show and they've got an audience of any size, let's get those people contacting me. I have a 24/7 contact at Crrow777radio.com. So there it is, man. And Ty, thanks so much for having me. And Louie, I'm sorry I got such a big mouth, man. I feel like I kind of walked all over you.
No,
I really apologize, man.
No, I love it. I mean, really, Ty and I usually touch base every day, like first thing when we wake up, like, okay, what's the plan today? And Ty started explaining everything that he was seeing going on with you and the YouTube channel. And I said, you've got to call him right now and let's do an unplanned show, have him on. So this was really about, what you had to say. I mean, I think you being the one under fire, it's good that sometimes you have healthy lungs, man.
I'll tell you this is not a happy time. And, as the years have gone by, I've been very conscious of ego. And when that first strike come, the natural human response is to get that knot in the pit of your stomach. I set it all aside. Change happens. Everything created in this world will see its end. And if my YouTube channel comes to that, so be it. The point is maybe the brand that I've built, maybe the fact that I'm pretty well known because of the lunar wave, and there's very few places in this world that haven't heard of it. Maybe I can be a catalyst here. And I'm not acting like I can get to the goal line, but even if I could just be the first wave, this has to be pushed against. We have to light our candles. Every person out there walks into a pitch black room. I don't care if it's a room the size of a stadium, and you turn on a light, the blackness will flee. Every one of us out there matters. And if we get behind things like this, knowing that it's an infringement on a human being to try to control their thought or their speech, maybe something can come out of this. And if that happens, it was more than worth losing all that I'm about to lose. And nonetheless, I did build my own website, so we'll see if I can survive without the YouTube traffic. But there it is, man.
Yeah. Nice. Very well said, man, and thank you for being here. We're going to do our part to spread this thing as far and as wide as we can, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say on other shows. I'm sure I'll be in the mix on those. And one more time, everybody, hashtag modern day book burning, create those memes, push them out onto social media and anywhere else you can.
Let me say one more thing, Ty. For everyone listening, Ty offered me an article, and even though I don't really count myself a member of Flat Earth for a reason I've stated endlessly, I do challenge the description of our world. He offered me a recurring article in this magazine that he's running this YouTube channel for, and he gave it to me carte blanche. In other words, no restriction on anything I want to say. And I want to put it out there. The deadline for my next article will be next month to Ty. I'm going to cover the fact that the moon played no role in the solar eclipse we just had. And I'm going to talk a little bit about alchemy, where your mind is constantly drugged to the crossroads. I want to put that out there for everyone. Regardless of what comes of any of this, we're not stopping. There's an age here that we all have to address. Anyhow, Ty and Louie, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, man. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. There's going to be a lot of talk about this going on over the next week or two. I encourage everyone to participate and, do what you can. Be a part of it. Thank you to everyone who's backing up Crrow's material. I'm sure if you contact Crrow, if you have a question about that aspect, about what he's cool with when it comes to the videos, just get in touch with Crrow. He's not hard to find, and I'm sure he's going to be happy that all of his work is going to be out there for people to see in the future. And I really appreciate all the efforts there. And yeah, thank you, Louie, for being here.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. We're going to call it good now, and hashtag modern day book burning. Thank you, everyone.